In a world filled with noise, only a few voices truly rise. Not because they shout the loudest, but because they speak with truth, courage, and purpose. Joe Ranga is one such voice, a voice that did not emerge from comfort, privilege, or applause, but from struggle, silence, and relentless belief. Joe Ranga's journey reminds us that powerful voices are not born, they are built. Built in moments of doubt, sharpened by failure, and strengthened by the refusal to give up. When circumstances tried to quiet him, he listened deeper, to his values, his vision, and his inner calling. This voice rises not to dominate, but to awaken. It rises to challenge fear, to question limits, and to inspire those who feel unheard. Joe Ranga speaks not only for himself, but for countless individuals who are searching for the courage to stand up, speak out, and step forward. What makes Joe Ranga's voice extraordinary is not perfection, it is authenticity. Every word carries the weight of experience, the fire of conviction, and the hope of transformation. His message is simple yet profound. Your voice matters even when the world tells you it doesn't. As his voice rises, it lifts others with it. It turns pain into purpose, silence into strength, and fear into fuel. Joe Ranga stands as a living reminder that when one voice rises with honesty and courage, it can echo across generations. Joe Ranga's voice did not emerge from ease or privilege, it was forged in struggle. Long before his words carried strength and clarity, there were moments of uncertainty where silence felt heavier than speech. These were times when being heard seemed impossible, when circumstances tried to convince him that his thoughts, ideas, and dreams did not matter. But it was precisely within these difficult moments that his voice began to take shape. Struggle has a way of revealing truth. For Joe Ranga, every setback became a lesson, every obstacle became a test of resolve. Instead of allowing hardship to break his spirit, he allowed it to refine his character. Each challenge forced him to reflect deeply, to understand who he was and what he stood for. His voice grew stronger not because life was kind, but because he learned to remain firm when life was harsh. There were times when silence was not a choice but a condition, when speaking up felt risky, misunderstood, or unwelcome. Yet in that silence, Joe Ranga listened. He listened to the world around him, to the pain of others, and to the quiet inner voice that urged him to keep going. This period of quiet endurance became the foundation of his strength. It taught him patience, empathy, and the power of thoughtful expression. Struggle also gave his voice credibility. When Joe Ranga speaks, his words carry weight because they are grounded in lived experience. He does not speak from theory alone. He speaks from moments of doubt, failure, resilience, and growth. His voice resonates because it reflects real battles faced and overcome, making his message relatable and deeply human. Rather than allowing struggle to silence him, Joe Ranga transformed it into fuel. Every challenge sharpened his awareness, strengthened his conviction, and deepened his understanding of perseverance. His voice became a reflection of endurance, a reminder that hardship does not diminish a person's worth, but can amplify their purpose. This is why Joe Ranga's voice rises with authenticity and power. It is not loud for the sake of attention, it is strong because it has survived resistance. Born from struggle, his voice stands as proof that even in the most difficult conditions, something meaningful can grow, something capable of inspiring others to believe in the strength hidden within their own struggles. Fear is one of the most powerful forces that silence voices before they are ever heard. For Joe Ranga, fear was not an abstract idea, it was a constant presence. The fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear of being misunderstood, and the fear of stepping into the unknown all stood in his path. Yet what defines his journey is not the absence of fear, but his decision to rise above it. Joe Ranga understood early on that fear does not disappear simply because we wish it away. Instead of running from it, he faced it directly. Each time fear whispered doubt, he responded with action. Speaking up when it felt uncomfortable, choosing courage when silence seemed safer, and moving forward even when certainty was out of reach. These choices slowly reshaped his relationship with fear. Rather than allowing fear to control his voice, Joe Ranga learned to use it as a signal. Fear became a reminder that growth was happening, that he was pushing beyond familiar limits. Every moment of hesitation became an opportunity to strengthen his resolve. With each step forward, fear lost its power to dominate, and confidence began to rise in its place. Fear also tested his authenticity. It challenged him to decide whether he would live by others' expectations or by his own truth. Joe Ranga chose honesty over approval. By speaking what he believed rather than what was convenient, he transformed fear into a force that sharpened his clarity and strengthened his purpose. This process was not instant. Rising above fear required consistency, self-belief, and patience. There were moments when fear returned stronger than before, but each encounter left him better prepared. Over time, fear stopped being an obstacle and became a companion on the journey, a reminder of how far he had come and how much more was possible. Joe Ranga's ability to rise above fear is what allows his voice to carry strength and conviction. His words are not empty affirmations, they are the result of choices made in difficult moments. By confronting fear rather than surrendering to it, he proved that a voice does not need to be fearless to be powerful. It only needs the courage to keep rising. In a world that constantly demands flawlessness, Joe Ranga chose something far more powerful: authenticity. He understood that perfection creates distance, while authenticity creates connection. Rather than presenting a polished image designed to impress, he allowed his real voice to be heard, complete with its struggles, uncertainties, and growth. Joe Ranga's journey taught him that perfection is often an illusion. It pressures individuals to hide their weaknesses and silence their truth. Instead of chasing unrealistic standards, he focused on speaking honestly, even when his words were imperfect. This honesty became the core of his strength. People did not listen to him because he appeared flawless. They listened because he was real. Authenticity required courage. It meant showing vulnerability in spaces where strength was expected, admitting mistakes in moments where silence felt easier, and standing by his beliefs even when they were questioned. Joe Ranga accepted that being genuine would not always be comfortable or universally accepted, but he valued truth over approval. His voice carries impact because it reflects lived experience rather than rehearsed ideals. Every message he shares is grounded in reality, lessons learned through effort, reflection, and resilience. This genuine expression allows others to see themselves in his story, to recognize that growth does not require perfection, only honesty and persistence. By choosing authenticity, Joe Ranga freed himself from comparison. He stopped measuring his worth against others and instead focused on staying true to his values. This shift allowed his voice to become clearer, stronger, and more consistent. The absence of perfection did not weaken his message, it amplified it. Authenticity also gave his voice longevity. Trends fade and polished images lose relevance, but a genuine voice endures. Joe Ranga's commitment to being real ensures that his words continue to resonate, inspire, and connect with those who are searching for truth in a world full of appearances. Joe Ranga's voice carries meaning because it does not speak only for itself. It rises for those who have been overlooked, ignored, or silenced by circumstance. He understands what it feels like to exist on the margins of attention, where thoughts go unacknowledged and potential remains unseen. This understanding shaped his commitment to speak for the unheard. From his own experiences, Joe Ranga learned that silence is often imposed, not chosen. Many people remain quiet not because they lack ideas or strength, but because they lack opportunity, confidence, or support. Recognizing this, he chose to use his voice as a bridge, connecting hidden struggles to public awareness. When Joe Ranga speaks, he carries stories that are not always told. Stories of perseverance without recognition, effort without applause, and strength that survives in quiet spaces. His words validate those experiences, reminding others that their struggles are real and their presence matters. This validation creates a powerful sense of belonging. Speaking for the unheard also requires responsibility. Joe Ranga is mindful that representing others demands empathy, respect, and sincerity. He listens deeply before he speaks, ensuring that his voice reflects shared truth rather than personal gain. This careful balance gives his message authenticity and trust. Through his voice, individuals who once felt invisible begin to feel seen. His message encourages them to believe that silence does not define their worth and that their voices too can rise. By standing up for those without a platform, Joe Ranga transforms individual expression into collective strength. His commitment to the unheard expands the reach of his voice. It turns personal success into shared progress and personal courage into communal empowerment. In lifting others, Joe Ranga ensures that his voice echoes far beyond himself, resonating in the lives of those who needed it most. Joe Ranga does not speak to fill silence. He speaks to fulfill purpose. Every word he chooses is guided by intention, shaped by values, and directed toward meaning. He understands that a powerful voice is not measured by how often it is heard, but by why it speaks in the first place. This sense of purpose is what gives his expression depth and direction. From early on, Joe Ranga recognized that words have consequences. They can inspire growth or deepen doubt, unite people or divide them. With this awareness, he became deliberate in how he communicated. He learned to pause before speaking, to reflect on the impact of his message, and to ensure that his voice aligned with what he truly stood for. Purpose-driven expression also meant refusing to speak merely for attention or approval. Joe Ranga resisted the temptation to follow trends or echo popular opinions when they conflicted with his beliefs. Instead, he remained grounded in his principles, allowing his voice to become a reflection of conviction rather than convenience. This clarity of purpose strengthened his consistency. Whether addressing challenges, sharing insight, or motivating others, his message remained aligned with a deeper mission. People learned to trust his voice because it was steady, intentional, and sincere. His expression carried weight because it was rooted in meaning, not impulse. Purpose also gave Joe Ranga resilience. When his message was questioned or misunderstood, he did not retreat into silence. He returned to his purpose, allowing it to guide him through criticism and doubt. This inner alignment kept his voice steady even when external reactions fluctuated. By speaking with purpose, Joe Ranga transformed communication into influence. His words became tools for awareness, encouragement, and change. Purpose-driven expression ensured that his voice did more than speak. It served, guided, and empowered those who listened. Silence played a crucial role in shaping Joe Ranga's voice. Before his words carried confidence and clarity, there were long periods where silence surrounded him, times of observation, reflection, and internal struggle. Rather than viewing silence as weakness, he learned to see it as preparation. In those quiet moments, strength was quietly forming. Joe Ranga understood that silence often arrives during uncertainty. When answers are unclear and direction feels distant, silence can feel heavy and isolating. Instead of resisting it, he allowed himself to sit within it. This stillness became a space for self-awareness, where he examined his fears, values, and intentions without distraction. Through silence he developed depth. Listening more than speaking helped him understand people, situations, and emotions on a deeper level. He learned that strength does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it grows quietly, building patience, discipline, and emotional intelligence. These qualities later became evident in the way he spoke and carried himself. Silence also sharpened his voice. When words are withheld, they gain meaning. Joe Ranga became intentional with expression, choosing clarity over excess. His words, once spoken, carried weight because they were shaped by reflection rather than impulse. By transforming silence into strength, he reclaimed control over his narrative. Silence was no longer something imposed on him, it became something he used strategically. It allowed him to gather clarity, build resilience, and prepare for moments when his voice truly needed to rise. This transformation gave his voice quiet authority. When Joe Ranga speaks, it is not rushed or forced. It is grounded, thoughtful, and composed. Evidence that strength can emerge from stillness and that silence, when understood, can become one of the most powerful foundations of expression. Joe Ranga's voice does more than express personal strength. It awakens courage in others. His journey demonstrates that bravery is not an individual achievement meant to be admired from a distance, but a shared experience that grows when people see it modeled with honesty. By standing firm in his truth, he gives others permission to do the same. He understands that many people are not lacking ability or vision, they are lacking courage. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, and fear of standing alone often prevent individuals from stepping forward. When Joe Ranga speaks openly about his challenges and choices, he breaks the illusion that courage belongs only to the fearless. His voice shows that courage is built through action, not absence of fear. Inspiring collective courage means creating a ripple effect. One voice rising encourages another, and soon silence begins to break across many lives. Joe Ranga's message resonates because it does not place him above others. It stands beside them. He does not demand bravery, he demonstrates it through consistency and conviction. His words encourage people to confront their own limitations, to question the boundaries they have accepted, and to take small but meaningful steps forward. This shared sense of empowerment transforms individual growth into collective momentum. People begin to realize that they are stronger together than they are alone. Joe Ranga's influence lies in his ability to unite voices rather than overshadow them. By encouraging dialogue, self-belief, and mutual support, he helps others find confidence in their own expression. Courage becomes contagious, spreading through connection and shared understanding. Through this collective awakening, Joe Ranga's voice multiplies its impact. It no longer belongs to one person. It becomes a catalyst that strengthens communities, fosters resilience, and encourages people to rise together with confidence and purpose. Joe Ranga's voice is not defined by a single moment or a temporary wave of recognition. It is shaped by the lasting impact it leaves behind. He understands that true influence is measured not by immediate applause, but by the changes that continue long after the words have been spoken. This awareness drives him to think beyond the present and focus on meaning that endures. A legacy of impact is built through consistency. Joe Ranga shows up with the same values, the same conviction, and the same commitment over time. His message does not shift with convenience or circumstance. This steady presence builds trust and allows his influence to deepen, reaching people at different stages of their lives. He recognizes that legacy is carried through people, not platforms. Every individual inspired to believe in their voice, every person encouraged to rise above fear, and every life touched by his message becomes part of that legacy. His impact lives on through the actions and courage of others who were influenced by his words. Joe Ranga also understands responsibility and influence. He is mindful that his voice shapes perspectives and decisions, and he approaches that responsibility with humility. Rather than seeking control, he focuses on empowerment, helping others discover strength, clarity, and direction within themselves. Time strengthens his legacy rather than fading it. As experiences accumulate and wisdom deepens, his voice gains richer meaning. What he represents evolves, but the foundation remains rooted in authenticity, courage, and purpose. This evolution ensures relevance without losing integrity. Through dedication to impact rather than recognition, Joe Ranga's voice becomes timeless. It continues to resonate across moments, conversations, and generations, leaving behind a trail of confidence, resilience, and belief in the power of rising voices. Pain is often seen as something to escape, hide, or forget, but Joe Ranga chose a different path. He transformed pain into purpose. Throughout his journey, moments of disappointment, rejection, and emotional struggle were not erased or ignored. Instead, they became sources of insight that shaped his direction and strengthened his resolve. Joe Ranga learned that pain carries lessons when it is confronted with honesty. Rather than allowing difficult experiences to harden him, he allowed them to deepen his understanding of life and people. Each hardship sharpened his awareness of what truly matters, guiding him toward a purpose larger than personal comfort. This transformation required reflection. Pain forced him to slow down, question his path, and redefine his priorities. In doing so, he discovered that purpose is often born from what challenges us the most. The very experiences that once threatened to weaken him became the foundation of his motivation and clarity. By turning pain into purpose, Joe Ranga gave meaning to struggle. His voice began to reflect resilience rather than resentment, hope rather than bitterness. This shift allowed his message to connect deeply with others who were carrying their own unspoken burdens. People recognized sincerity in his words because they were shaped by real trials. Purpose also gave direction to his healing. Pain was no longer something that controlled him, it became something that informed him. It pushed him to contribute, to uplift, and to create value beyond himself. His experiences became tools for guidance rather than reminders of limitation. Through this process, Joe Ranga demonstrated that pain does not have the final word. When aligned with purpose, it becomes a source of strength, insight, and motivation, fuel that drives growth and gives lasting meaning to one's voice and actions. Joe Ranga's influence is most powerful because he leads not just with words, but with action. He embodies the principles he speaks about, demonstrating through consistent behavior the values he wants others to adopt. Leadership, in his view, is not a title or position. It is a practice, a commitment to act with integrity and purpose in every moment. Leading through example requires courage and self-discipline. Joe Ranga holds himself accountable to the same standards he encourages in others. Whether it's facing challenges, making difficult decisions, or standing by his beliefs, he does so visibly, showing that true leadership is rooted in responsibility rather than authority. People are inspired because they see the principles in motion, not just hear them described. His actions create a blueprint for others. By embodying resilience, authenticity, and courage, he provides a model for what is possible when words and deeds align. This alignment builds trust, credibility, and influence because people are more likely to follow someone who practices what they preach. His leadership is tangible, practical, and relatable. Leading through example also extends to how he treats others. Joe Ranga demonstrates empathy, respect, and encouragement, showing that leadership is as much about lifting others as it is about personal achievement. His approach fosters collaboration, trust, and collective growth, proving that strong leadership strengthens the community around it. By consistently living his values, Joe Ranga turns abstract concepts into real-life practices. His example becomes a silent teacher, influencing behavior without the need for persuasion or force. People observe, learn, and are inspired to act with the same integrity, courage, and commitment. Ultimately, leading through example allows Joe Ranga's voice to extend beyond speech alone. His influence is amplified because it is rooted in observable action, creating a living legacy of leadership that motivates, guides, and empowers others to rise and lead in their own lives. Joe Ranga's journey demonstrates that failure is not the end of a path, but a crucial teacher along the way. Rather than fearing mistakes or avoiding risks, he learned to embrace failure as an essential part of growth. Each setback became a mirror, reflecting areas for improvement and opportunities for deeper understanding. Failure tested his resilience and challenged his confidence. There were moments when outcomes did not align with effort, when expectations were unmet, and when criticism seemed overwhelming. Yet instead of succumbing to frustration or self-doubt, Joe Ranga approached these moments with curiosity. He asked, "What can this teach me?" rather than "Why did this happen to me?" This shift in perspective transformed obstacles into lessons. Embracing failure also strengthened his adaptability. By analyzing what went wrong, he developed new strategies, refined his approach, and became more flexible in navigating challenges. This ability to learn from mistakes allowed him to grow faster than those who fear or ignore failure. Every misstep became a building block for future success. Failure also reinforced humility. Joe Ranga recognized that no one achieves greatness without encountering setbacks. By acknowledging his limitations and learning from them openly, he created a sense of relatability and trust with others. His audience sees that failure is not shameful, but a natural and necessary part of any meaningful journey. Importantly, failure fueled his determination. Each disappointment added motivation to try again, harder and wiser. By turning failure into a teacher rather than a barrier, Joe Ranga cultivated resilience, sharpened judgment, and built a voice that carries both credibility and inspiration. Through this approach, Joe Ranga shows that embracing failure is not optional. It is essential for growth, mastery, and authentic leadership. It teaches patience, perseverance, and the value of continuous learning, all of which contribute to a voice that rises with strength, wisdom, and unwavering purpose. Resilience is the backbone of Joe Ranga's journey. It is the invisible force that allows him to persist when circumstances are harsh, expectations are low, and challenges seem insurmountable. Unlike natural talent or temporary motivation, resilience is cultivated through experience, mindset, and deliberate practice, and Joe Ranga exemplifies this principle fully. From early struggles to later obstacles, Joe Ranga faced situations that could have easily derailed his progress. There were moments when rejection, criticism, or unforeseen setbacks threatened to silence him. Yet, instead of yielding to despair, he chose persistence. He learned to absorb disappointment without losing confidence, to see obstacles as temporary rather than defining, and to move forward with renewed determination after each setback. Cultivating resilience required patience and self-discipline. Joe Ranga understood that growth is rarely linear. Success does not come from a single victory, but from repeated effort, the ability to endure hardship, and the willingness to adapt. He developed strategies to maintain focus, manage stress, and remain steadfast even when progress appeared slow or invisible to the outside world. Resilience also strengthened his emotional intelligence. By facing challenges repeatedly, he learned to manage fear, frustration, and doubt. He became capable of responding to adversity with calm and clarity, turning potential moments of weakness into opportunities for reflection and improvement. This emotional stability became a defining feature of his voice, giving it both authority and empathy. Moreover, resilience allowed Joe Ranga to inspire others authentically. His ability to persevere in the face of difficulty demonstrates that setbacks are not permanent barriers but opportunities for growth. People are drawn to his example because it proves that courage and persistence are not abstract ideals. They are achievable through intentional effort and mental strength. Through cultivating resilience, Joe Ranga transformed life's difficulties into stepping stones. Each challenge strengthened his resolve, sharpened his focus, and reinforced his capacity to lead, speak, and inspire. His voice rises because it is backed by the unwavering strength of someone who has endured, adapted, and grown stronger through every trial. Joe Ranga's voice is guided by a clear and compelling vision, an imagined future that directs every decision, action, and word. Vision is the compass that gives his voice purpose, ensuring that what he says and does is aligned with a larger goal. Without vision, even the strongest voice risks wandering aimlessly, but Joe Ranga demonstrates how clarity of direction amplifies impact. From the earliest stages of his journey, he understood that vision is more than ambition or desire. It is a combination of insight, foresight, and commitment. A mental map of what is possible and a roadmap for how to get there. This vision gave him focus in moments of distraction, courage in moments of doubt, and perseverance when the path seemed uncertain. Vision also fuels inspiration. Joe Ranga's clarity about where he is headed allows him to communicate with conviction. When he speaks, others can see not just his words but the purpose behind them. His vision becomes a beacon, helping people understand what is achievable when determination and direction align. Importantly, a strong vision does not ignore obstacles, it anticipates them. Joe Ranga's vision allows him to navigate challenges strategically. Setbacks are reframed as temporary detours, not permanent roadblocks, and this mindset keeps momentum alive even in difficult times. The vision provides a framework within which resilience, courage, and purpose can flourish. Vision also fosters unity and collective action. When others align with his vision, they find motivation to contribute, collaborate, and pursue shared goals. Joe Ranga's voice, anchored in a clear sense of purpose, transcends personal ambition and becomes a rallying point for those who seek direction, clarity, and meaning in their own lives. Through the power of vision, Joe Ranga's voice is not reactive or fleeting. It is intentional, focused, and forward-looking. Every word he speaks, every action he takes, is reinforced by a mental image of what could be, making his message enduring, impactful, and capable of guiding others toward their own highest potential. Joe Ranga's voice carries weight because it is rooted in trust. Influence is not achieved through authority alone, but through the consistent demonstration of integrity, reliability, and authenticity. Over time, he has cultivated a reputation for honesty and dependability, making people not only listen to his words but also believe in them. Trust begins with consistency. Joe Ranga ensures that his actions align with his words. When he makes a commitment, he follows through. When he shares insights or advice, it is grounded in experience and genuine understanding. This alignment between speech and action builds credibility, which is essential for sustaining long-term influence. Transparency is another key aspect of trust. Joe Ranga does not hide his mistakes or struggles. He shares them openly, showing that vulnerability is not weakness, but a bridge to connection. By being transparent, he encourages others to see authenticity as a strength, creating deeper engagement and mutual respect. Reliability also strengthens his influence. People learn that when Joe Ranga speaks, he is guided by principles rather than convenience. This dependability fosters loyalty and encourages others to act upon his guidance, knowing it is thoughtful, principled, and intended for positive impact. Building trust also involves empathy and listening. Joe Ranga makes the effort to understand the perspectives of others, validate their experiences, and respond thoughtfully. This approach transforms his voice from a monologue into a dialogue, creating a sense of collaboration and shared purpose. Through trust, Joe Ranga amplifies his influence naturally. People are drawn to him not merely because of what he says, but because they know he stands for what he believes and acts with integrity. Trust transforms a voice into a force capable of inspiring, guiding, and mobilizing others toward meaningful action. Joe Ranga's voice rises not only because it speaks truth but also because it dares to challenge established norms. He understands that growth, both personal and societal, often comes from questioning the status quo, pushing boundaries, and refusing to accept limitations imposed by tradition, convention, or collective fear. Challenging norms requires courage, because it often invites criticism, resistance, or misunderstanding. Joe Ranga embraces this risk, recognizing that meaningful change cannot occur without discomfort. By questioning outdated practices, confronting assumptions, and exploring unconventional paths, he demonstrates that courage is essential to create progress. His approach is thoughtful, not reckless. Joe Ranga analyzes, observes, and understands the systems and beliefs he is challenging. His challenges are rooted in logic, experience, and a vision for improvement rather than rebellion for its own sake. This combination of insight and boldness makes his voice persuasive and credible, rather than confrontational or alienating. Challenging norms also requires resilience. Resistance is inevitable when confronting entrenched ideas, but Joe Ranga persists. He continues to advocate for change, using setbacks as learning opportunities and refining his approach to engage others constructively. This persistence ensures that his voice maintains impact even in the face of opposition. Importantly, by challenging norms, Joe Ranga inspires others to think critically and independently. His courage signals to those around him that questioning assumptions is not only acceptable but necessary for growth. He encourages people to step beyond comfort zones, explore new possibilities, and trust their judgment. Through this courage to challenge norms, Joe Ranga's voice becomes transformative. It not only rises above ordinary discourse but also shapes new perspectives, encourages innovation and empowers others to embrace change, ensuring that his influence is both dynamic and enduring. Joe Ranga's voice is strengthened by a commitment to continuous learning. He recognizes that knowledge is not finite, and wisdom grows when curiosity is nurtured throughout life. Instead of relying solely on past experiences or fixed beliefs, he actively seeks new perspectives, skills, and insights to expand his understanding and enrich his contributions. Continuous learning requires humility. Joe Ranga understands that no matter how much he knows or achieves, there is always more to discover. This mindset allows him to approach challenges with openness, listen deeply to others, and adapt his approach when necessary. By valuing learning over ego, he ensures that his voice remains relevant, informed, and thoughtful. Learning also fuels innovation and adaptability. In a rapidly changing world, ideas, technologies, and circumstances evolve constantly. Joe Ranga's dedication to growth allows him to respond proactively, integrate new knowledge into his work, and offer fresh, practical solutions. His voice stays dynamic because it is rooted in evolving insight rather than static tradition. Moreover, embracing continuous learning demonstrates resilience in the face of uncertainty. Rather than being intimidated by unfamiliar situations, Joe Ranga treats them as opportunities to grow. Challenges become lessons, mistakes become experiments, and curiosity becomes a guiding force for improvement and progress. By prioritizing learning, he sets an example for others to follow. His audience sees that growth is a lifelong journey and that seeking knowledge is not a sign of weakness but a path to empowerment. This approach encourages those around him to remain inquisitive, adaptable, and proactive in pursuing their own development. Through continuous learning, Joe Ranga ensures that his voice is not only informed but also evolving. Each new insight strengthens his ability to inspire, lead, and influence others, making his contributions enduring and his impact progressively greater. Joe Ranga's journey is a testament to the power of persistence, courage, and authenticity. Each lesson, challenge, and triumph has shaped a voice that does more than speak. It inspires, empowers, and transforms. His story reminds us that true impact is not measured by recognition or applause, but by the lives we touch, the courage we ignite in others, and the legacy we leave behind. As we reflect on his journey, one truth becomes clear. A voice that rises does not merely echo, it resonates, creating ripples of change that extend far beyond its origin. Joe Ranga's voice is proof that when passion meets purpose, resilience meets vision, and authenticity meets action, even a single voice can inspire generations to rise, speak, and make a difference. This is the voice of Joe Ranga, a voice that rises, a legacy that endures, and a call to all of us to find our own courage, speak our own truth, and rise in our own way.